Sorry, I'm a bit shaking still. Clearly it had a...
Oh, I'm sorry.
Anyway.
Okay, go on.
Yeah,
this was on Saturday night?
It was a Saturday night, that's right. We'd gone into the film. We've been there loads of times.
Of course.
And the cinema staff walked in at the bottom. Didn't even know they were there, to be honest. It was so dark.
Yes.
And you just heard this kind of voice say, everyone needs to evacuate. And we kind of look around. And then, bizarrely, somebody stood up and said, how much left on the film?
Yeah.
But
take your time, Alex. You're going to have all the time you need, mate. So I appreciate you're a bit shaken up, and
yeah,
perhaps that's the most sort of pertinent thing that you've brought forward so far is that the cinema multiplex would have been full of people caught up in this who had as little idea of what was going on as I currently have. What did they tell you?
Nothing at all. There was no alarms that were sounded. That's kind of the thing that scared me most, was because I had no idea what was waiting on the other side, but thankfully the staff there were really professional. They let me know immediately that there was police all over the complex.
So you would have feared a terror attack or something like that, am I right? Is that what we're thinking here?
That was something that was going through my mind,
I'm not remotely surprised. I just want to clarify a couple of things. You're sitting in the auditorium watching Frozen 2, presumably with your kids?
Yes.
And the film stops?
No.
The film is carrying on, because that's done by computer program, but staff come into the cinema and announce that they are evacuating the auditorium.
That's right, yeah.
And then they usher you all out through the normal exit or through the...
through the normal exit, yes.
Okay. And at what point did you find out what had actually happened?
Well, I found out later through social media and
so what did you do? Just go to the car park and drive home?
That's right.
Crikey. And then later you found out from the news that there'd been that things had kicked off in another auditorium and then spread out into the Star City complex.
Yeah, that's how I found out all about this, and I'm just grateful that it could have been a lot worse in my own head, obviously. But
I hear you.
The fact that the one thing that I wanted to say really was that I can fully understand that the film, that the cinema has pulled this film because it's something that they just cannot abide by. It was...
No, but here's the thing, and please don't think I'm being glib, all right? But if a massive fight had broken out at Frozen 2, no one would be calling for Frozen 2 to be pulled from every cinema in the country, would they?
True. I think
and if it's a 15, if it's 15, which it is, then there is no conceivable way it can be as violent 18 films. So what is it about this film that is peculiar? Do we know?
You got me there. Yeah. I suppose
I'm not trying to get you. I'm just thinking out loud.
Yes, absolutely. Well, if you were to go along the similar sort of routes, wouldn't it have some sort of impact on the times that the film was being screened at? I mean, I can fully admit that,
it's a 15. I keep coming back to the fact that it's a 15, and I've got a 13-year-old, so I watch these gradations quite closely, and it clearly wouldn't rank in the top 10 violent films of all time ever. And so, what is it specifically about this film that is so problematical? Do we know?
It may not have anything to do with the film as such. It might just be the cinema showing how much power they have over which films they screen.
Yeah.
And just saying that we're not going to stand for any of this, no matter what film is being showed.
But then they're punishing the directors and the actors of the film for the actions of some hoodlums on Saturday night in Star City, aren't they? And you approve of it being withdrawn because you wouldn't want anybody else to go through what you've gone through, and it strikes you as the only obvious way that you could perhaps ensure that. If the film's not on anywhere, then no one's going to kick off in that film again, are they? Full stop.
No, you're right. And the report that I heard about, it was involving about 70 individuals.
Up to 100, according to The Guardian.
So...
Which is terrifying.
It's absolutely awful. The whole situation just got completely out of control by the fans of the movie that night, spoiling it for pretty much everybody else. I mean, there would have been other people who would want to go see that film in particular.
Right. You're right. And that's, I mean, in many ways, I don't agree with you that the film should be pulled, but I suspect that if I'd been there with my daughters, then I would feel very differently about it from the way I feel sitting in the security of this soundproof studio. How are the kids? Are they all right? Did you manage to explain it to them in a way that wasn't too upsetting?
The youngest two, Riley and Lily, they all thought it was interesting what was going on. Tamara, the eldest, she's 7 years old. She's actually been really shaken up by the whole incident.
I wonder whether the cinema should be doing something to help families like yours and to help children like Tamara sort of, I don't want to sound glib, but not get spooked by the thought of going to the cinema full stop, because that's
something that could have possibly been done to ensure a much more better outcome in the future.
Yeah, well, that's something I'm sure they'll be thinking about.
Pulling a film just tells everybody that you can't go see these violent films.
Well, it does. And we'll wait and see whether or not the film chain relevant here does do anything. So just to clarify, in conclusion, you got ushered out of the auditorium, you made your way to the car park, you didn't actually see any violence, you just did what you were told and got out of there sharpish, and then found out later that in the next door auditorium or somewhere across the multiplex there were some very harrowing scenes playing out.
Okay. Well, it was an experience probably not worth reliving again, and I thank the police, their fast response, and the safety that me and my family did feel as we were being led out to the car park. They had a very professional system in
they'll
place
be glad
to make
hear
sure
that. And so am I, actually, and I'm sorry that you went through what you went through, actually. And there, oddly, from the point of view of a dad with his 3 kids in a neighbouring auditorium, the story assumes a momentum entirely different from the one that I had given it in my introduction. But I remain confused about what it is about this particular film that has prompted the original violence, if there is a causal relationship between the film and the violence, which I don't know that anyone has proved. And the second question then becomes, why this astonishing nationwide reaction to an unpleasant episode in a suburb of Birmingham? That bit I genuinely don't get.